Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi LiveNoding. In this episode, I'm gonna do like a simple example, kind of like a way you might want to prototype an idea using grease pencil and Sverchok add-on inside Blender. So I've been basically experimenting with creating an iOS app using iPhone or iPad, and then based from that experience, it's very interesting because you start to think about how the user might use the app, and then the touch of the iPhone or the iPad to kind of work out and create something. And especially I'm playing around with the ARKit for iOS app development, and the ARKit is the Apple augmented reality kind of kit, like a framework that's allowing user really to interact with real life, but with a 3D kind of like virtual objects in between user and the real world. And in a way, you can kind of tell user, okay, this is like a real world, and then the user can actually like leave like a mark in real world, like a point, and then the points can be on the surface, but it can also be on the plane itself. Just like when you are inside Blender and you are using grease pencil, you can kind of tell Blender, okay, you can place the strokes at the cursor position or on the surface, for example, at the surface of these objects, and it will kind of like a stick on the surface. That's actually exactly mimicking. It's actually very similar to Apple ARKit frameworks in a way. So if you imagine that if you allow user to just leave a dots, that means you can actually start to generate a surface in real time. So I don't know. So I will try to prototype that using Blender. So let's get started. Windows full screen. So let's say we have like a real box in the real world, and you want the user to kind of put a point on the box. And in this case, I will use grease pencil, and I'll tell it to stick on the surface of objects. So I can kind of, maybe the user kind of like leave mark like that on the surface of object. They also can leave like a dots mark, but I'll use like something like this for now. So we have 4 points somewhere floating in 3D space, and I want to bring it inside Sverchok add-on. So this is 4 points, you know. With Sverchok, I will use the GP setup. By default, this will do the resembling, but we don't need all this. So I'm deleting 4 nodes. With this guy, object ID selector, we can still source the grease pencil and grab the GP layer and then switch to active frame. So now inside here, we actually have access to the grease pencil. So we have 4 strokes. Based on the 4 strokes, we want to get the center point. So I'm gonna use the bounding box nodes, get the vertices of grease pencil, and let's have a look at the preview. So by default, grease pencil strokes actually can generate a lot of points. We don't need a lot of points. We just want to get the center point. So that's why I'm using the bounding box. And we can get the center or the mean. I actually like to use the mean. So the mean seems to be somewhere out there. Maybe because I need to apply the matrix. Well, anyway, don't worry. Actually, that's because of this guy. So there you go. That's the matrix positions. If I just plug the mean to the vertices, we get the kind of like a center of the 4 strokes. With the center of 4 strokes, we can plug this into the UV connections, and we know that with UV connection we can easily create edges, like connect the dots based on the order how the user actually draw the points. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also look at it with a index viewer here. So the order actually matters. If you create an app that's and you want to tell the user draw 4 points or draw a couple like number of points, and then you tell them maybe just draw 4 points, and then based on the 4 points it will generate a plane. So in 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and from these informations we can actually turn it into a real polygon. So with the UV connections we have this option slice. So that's actually important for what we are doing in this case, kind of like to draw this a plane. So we can bake it, and we should be able to get that surface if I'm doing this correctly. Let me check. So we get a plane. I don't know if the normal is correct. Maybe it's the opposite. Yeah, it's probably the opposite. So the normal is wrong. When you're drawing like this clockwise, you get the normal facing that way. So that's important. Anyway, let's try it again on another frame. So imagine this is a box in the real world, and then you have a user, and then you have an iPhone, and then with the iPhone you kind of tell the user to draw 4 points using the augmented reality stuff. Draw 4 points on top of the surface. So the user will start, okay, I'm gonna draw 4 points like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there you go. That's the resulting surface. This box, so I'm gonna just, so the user apparently in this case, the way they draw the points and the order, and then it's also important with the surface. You can make this like a double-sided, but well, let's see. Let's try again. So the user will draw again 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So every time with this prototype tools, we need to do like a baking in this case, but you can also use the BMS viewer, and with BMS viewer maybe we don't need to do the baking, and perhaps at some point you don't want to, this is gonna be like a what do you think, like instead of telling the user draw 4 points and then bake the plane, you can tell user, okay, draw 4 points, and then for each 4 points, for every time the user draw 4 points, it will generate a plane. So you can do this like multiple times. I probably will do that in the next one. So this 1, 2, 3, 4. Imagine this is like a stair in the real world. Think about it. This is like we are doing it inside Blender, but if you tell the user, okay, you draw 4 points, this is like a real stair. And with Apple ARKit, it's actually very easy to implement this. So the user can place 4 points on the stair, so it will generate a real objects. See, 1, 2, 3. So this is like very rough prototyping. So yeah, this is what the user can get as the outcome of this kind of like placing 4 points in the real world, and they can get like a real plane as a result. And I don't know, I think this is just, I found it very interesting. It's kind of like you're giving a tool for user to deal with a real world environment, and then but you can kind of turning whatever data they collect and then turning it into something else. Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe this is useful for you or not, but of course you can, with Grease Pencil, you can easily kind of do this, you know. But I've been playing around with the ARKit for a month, and it's really powerful. You can actually do this exactly using the using your iPhone and the iPad, as long as it's like iPhone 6s and up, and the iPad, recent iPad should be able to do this. So you just tell user, look at the real world and then draw some kind of strokes or leave a points in real world, and then perhaps you want to save it out and then bring it into Blender and then export it out. Of course, ideally everything will happen inside the app, but I want to incorporate Blender somehow for this. So just an idea. Yeah, let me know what you think. Maybe you have question, feedbacks, maybe something I can improve on this. But thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.